What's up, guys? I finally got around to trying out the new Warlock exotic, the Briarbinds, which are really cool. In this video, we'll be going over exactly what they do and making a very fun build with them that makes it feel like you're playing a whole new game that really is even Destiny in a way. That is both incredibly fun and good. So jumping straight into what the exotic does. Your Void Souls have a longer duration. They also gain escalating damage and durability as they defeat targets. You can retrieve your Void Souls by interacting with them, allowing them to be redeployed. So for this exotic, we'll need the Child of the Old Gods Void aspect that does a lot of things. Cast your Rift to create a Void Soul. When you damage a target with a weapon, your Void Soul flies to them and drains them, doing damage and weakening them. When a target is being drained, you are granted grenade and melee energy if running Healing Rift, or health if running Empowering Rift. Defeating a target who's being drained by your Void Soul grants class ability energy. So again, what this exotic does for our Void Soul, the first thing will be it will increase the duration of the Void Soul itself. Normally without these exotic gauntlets, the Void Soul will last quite a while at 9 seconds. But now if we go ahead and put it on the exotic gauntlets, it's going to be roughly 5 seconds longer at 14 seconds, which is a pretty good noticeable increase. Also, whenever our Void Soul gets kills with these gauntlets, the damage that they suck for will increase per kill up to ×6, all the way up to double damage, which will happen very quickly. So all you have to do is deploy it gets 6 kills, then it'll be at the max damage it can do. So roughly 16.6 per stack for a total of 100% or double damage. Also, these stacks will increase the durability of the Void Soul. To me, the word durability implies they're harder to break and they last longer. That is what the word means to me, but they last the same amount of time, that 14 seconds, no matter how many seconds you have. But what they mean by more durability is they have a resistance value to them now. And now once you're at the max stacks of 6, they take half the damage, which means in PvE, they should be able to take almost double the damage before breaking that they would otherwise, make them in a way last longer. And also with these gauntlets, the final part is we can retrieve our Void Over Souls and redeploy them. So in a way, if you pick it up within those 14 seconds, you will then have a 25-second window to redeploy them, and in a way, make them last as long as you want. One thing to know about stowing the Void Souls is you can only stow one at a time. If you already have one pocketed, you cannot pick up another. You have to manually send one out, pick up a new one, send it out again, and move them one at a time. One trick I did find to allow you to actually send out 2 at once is if you do have one pocketed and stowed, you put down a new rift. When you shoot a target, it will send out the pocket one and the new one from the rift, so you can send out 2 at once. But one thing about Void Souls is no matter how many are around a target can only be sucked by one at a time. So creating more than one Void Soul is more about covering more area and not doing more damage to a single target. So the whole gameplay loop of this exotic is create a soul, let it get up to 6 kills for the max stacks, then you pocket it and redeploy it, and try to keep it going as long as possible. And before we get into the build that takes this entire concept up to like 11, I want to talk about today's video sponsor. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Over the past few years, many of us have gone through very tough times, starting with COVID lockdowns to the skyrocketing cost of living. And as someone in their mid-20s and now late 20s, during these years, at times it felt like I was dealt a losing hand, all while enjoying Destiny less and less by the day. What my career was centered around, I couldn't seem to find the light at the end of the tunnel. But it can get better, regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who is going through a hard time. Therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way, and that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you with a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. It's betterhelp.com/error. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Because finding a therapist is like dating. If you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. You can always benefit from talking to somebody and getting things off your chest. So if you're ready to find the light, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/error. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. So now for the build with these new exotic gauntlets that allow you to have a bajillion Void Souls at all times. Starting off with our subclass, I will link the dim build in the description. We're using Healing Rift, which is important because it'll give us grenade and melee energy back. Then we have whatever grenade you want. I usually use Vortex on Void, but I decided to change it up for this build with Magnetic. Once again, you can use whatever you want, but we'll be taking advantage of Chaos Accelerant, which turns our Magnetic Grenade into a pretty good burst option for majors and mini bosses. And for our fragments, we have this one to proc Devour by picking up a Void Breach or Orb of Power, which will happen all the time. Our segment fragment right here, Instability. Defeating targets with grenades grant volatile rounds to your Void weapons. We have Expulsion, where all of our Void final blows will cause an explosion. And finally Harvest, to create both an Orb of Power and Void Breach when defeating weakened targets. So now with our whole subclass going on, when we deploy our Void over Soul, it will obviously weaken everything, which then will create Orbs of Power and Void Breaches, 1 breach every 5 seconds. Picking those up give you class ability back, and whenever we get grenade final blows, we'll get volatile rounds for our Void weapon, and all these different Void veins will cause the explosions. And looking at our mods, we have an Ashes Assets and a Dynamo, along with a Void Siphon. We have Bolster and Detonation, a Grenade Kickstart, and a Fire Power. On our chest piece, we have a Charged Up, along with whatever resist or reserves you want, stacks on stacks, an Innervation, and an Insulation. Then I have Utility Kickstart, Distribution, and Powerful Attraction. So the whole way this all works is generally your Rift and your Void Soul feeds into your Grenade, and Grenade feeds into your Rift. And between all the different ability regeneration things we have going on, whether it be Kickstarts, Grenade Energy back from Devour and the Child of the Old Gods, getting our Rift back from Grenade damage, getting final blows on things being sucked by the Void Soul, Kickstart, and picking up Void Breaches, you will have both abilities all the time. And once you do this, you will have so many Void Souls, you will not even know what to do with them. And finishing out the build with my weapons, I have the trusted Leviathan's Breath, which is really good for basically everything in the entire game. I'm on the Heritage kick right now with the recombination, and for my weapon, any Void primary you really like, I'm using one with Repulsor Brace, because we're getting all kinds of volatile and weakened kills, which will proc this perk. You could use the new Word of Crota, which I finally got a few good rolls this week. But the issue with hand cannons with the Void Souls is to deploy a Void Soul, you have to do damage, but not lethal damage. And depending on the content you're doing, hand cannons usually one hit. So it doesn't work out great. But if you're playing harder content where you're not going to be one hitting the red bar enemies, a hand cannon would definitely work. And finishing out the build, I have the typical artifact mods with all the elemental balls to help get our abilities back, create ammo, then also give ourselves a 10% ability buff and damage buff. So overall with this build, there are so many oversouls that you can create and have going at all times that to an extent you're not even playing Destiny anymore. You have a new full-time 9-to-5 job where you're a manager of the Void Souls, just trying to go back and forth, pick them up and redeploy them more forward in the strike, activity, whatever you're doing. And it's really fun and refreshing. It's a whole different way of playing the game that is definitely extremely unique. I'm looking forward to using this build more and more throughout my daily gameplay and taking into some different things. I really feel like the way this whole build works, I don't think it will get worse as you play harder and harder content. If anything, it might get even better because of the fact that you'll be constantly sucking and debuffing everything in the entire activity, which would be really good for everyone in your fire team, right? And there's not much about this build that truly revolves around chaining kills or getting the final blow. A lot of it is just doing damage, will proc all the ability regions, and over time of course you will get final blows here and there, even in the hardest content. But overall these Void Souls don't only give great support by debuffing everything and slow them down by draining them, they also do a lot of damage because of the exotic. They also offer really good group clear, hitting a large radius. And with our fragment on Void, where the Void ability final blows will cause explosion. So overall, these things are just a complete monster. And the fact that you can have 20 of them up at all times if you're fast enough and can pick them up and redeploy them is just so crazy. Really reminds me of the old Verities with the stasis turrets, but instead of slowing and eventually freezing, this one's all about weakening the enemies and doing a lot of damage and making them explode. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it for the video. Let me know what you think about this build down below. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.
against hive signatures in a facility up ahead.